Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder Weather here. We've got a big, severe weather day ahead with large hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes possible as we'll walk you through the next 7 days. So let's take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. You can actually see out here in the Gulf of Mexico, that is Tropical Depression number 2 that has formed yesterday. It's running out of time to become Arlene because it's actually starting to weaken right now, and that's actually even drifting south instead of north. So it's actually moving away from the United States, but it is going to be bringing a steady stream of moisture down here into portions of Florida with some heavier rains. But out here into the subtropical jet stream, man, we've got just a persistent flow, and that's going to provide the lift later on this afternoon. That's going to be producing towering supercell thunderstorms across West Texas into the Panhandle, and then further north, heavier rains are going to be setting up over portions of Montana. So let's take a look at the setup, because we do have an enhanced risk for severe storms later on this afternoon across the Lubbock region, back into Midland, and back into San Angelo, all the way into Abilene, even far north is into Amarillo. Large supercell thunderstorms should start to fire around 4, 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon into the early evening time frame. And yes, we do have a risk for a few tornadoes down there into the Lubbock region, back into Midland, across San Angelo, even as far south as the Del Rio region, up here into Childress and into the Texas Panhandle towards the Amarillo area, and then very significant hail. So this has the capability of producing those 55, 60,000 foot cloud tops later on this afternoon. And there's a huge hatched risk implying that could be seeing those 2-inch diameter large hailstones of golf ball to tennis ball type size hail out here in West Texas, and very high winds with these supercells. You could be upwards to 75 miles an hour later on this afternoon. So really be on high alert from like that 4 to say 10 or 11 o'clock time frame down there in West Texas and into the Texas Panhandle. But man, we've got a lot of heavier rain with these thunderstorms as well. So across the Panhandle, where they've been inundated with just extremely heavy rainfall of late, now they have another moderate risk for excessive rainfall with these supercells coming across, as well as into western Oklahoma and portions of Kansas. And like I mentioned, further north, we've got that other cell that has a huge area of a moderate risk across Montana with very heavy rainfall setting up later on this afternoon. And then you got that marginal risk with that tropical depression down there in Florida. And then there's the beginning stages of a kind of a backdoor trough that's going to be moving in into portions of New England. That's going to be bringing up an area of lower pressure and bring some rain showers for them as well. But man, look at some of this flooding that occurred just in the last couple of days across the Texas Panhandle. So this is the last thing they need, is another moderate risk in place after some of those areas have actually picked up 15 inches of rainfall just in May alone. So man, that is just no end in sight, with another round of another 2 to 4 inches possible in this area where they desperately don't actually need the rainfall. So here's the setups for on the latest high resolution guidance up here in Montana. Kind of there's the bullseye with some heavier rains, some flooding rains. Those do have some flash flood watches in place, as well as across western Oklahoma into the Texas Panhandle, down there in West Texas with those supercell thunderstorms. And there's that tropical depression down there into the Gulf of Mexico, bring in some rain showers across central and southern Florida. And there's that pocket of energy up there and sneaking into portions of New England. So here's the setup going into tomorrow. So that same type system is going to be shifting just a little bit further off into the east. So that's going to push the access across portions going into more of a central Texas, North Texas, more into Oklahoma, more into Kansas. But the heavier rain should be really setting up along these kind of the same regions, with that same type of dynamic setup that's going to be unfolding with the heat of the afternoon. Again, that 4 to 10 o'clock time frame should see some supercell thunderstorms start to fire up in these regions with very heavy rain associated with them, because they're going to have light steering currents aloft, and that's why flooding is going to be a huge concern in a lot of these regions with quick, rapid 1.5 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates. And then by Sunday time frame, there's the setup. So we've got the system continue to shift a little bit further off into the east. So now areas and portions of, say, Oklahoma City, back into Dallas, back into the Waco region, you're going to be in the access of those heavier rains. So it should be some flooding rains in those areas, isolated pockets of flooding rain. And again, the same areas that have been getting impacted with storms still get impacted with that little low pressure that's probably going to be in Cuba by then, still close enough to Florida to bring them some elevated rain showers heading into your Sunday time frame. But going into Monday, there is your backdoor trough slowly oozing down here and from New England. That's going to be moving into the Northeast and eventually headed into the mid-Atlantic states with some much cooler air entering back into the picture for them. And then there's your another lift mechanism coming in out of California, bringing some unsettled conditions, cooler conditions for them. And then that's going to provide the lift for the continued northwest flow that you've seen of late, of just with daytime heating, diurnal type heating thunderstorms. They're going to be heating up in the heat of the afternoon. You can see where the low pressure is up there in New England. You got the low moving down from off into Cuba with the elevated rains across central and southern Florida. And then there's that northwest flow that continues to inundate the portions of the southern plains. And then you got the further north setup across portions of Montana that will shift portions of, say the Dakotas by the time we head into your Monday afternoon, and kind of the same setup on Tuesday, folks. So yes, you have that trough digging in a little bit further, right? So that's going to bring some instability and some rain showers, cooler air for a good part of the Northeast by then, where further south, you still got those isolated bubblers. They're going to heat up in the heat of the afternoon, and then they tend to kind of die off as the sun goes down. But there's the temperature anomalies, folks. By the time we head into Wednesday, that's a pretty cool shot of air for summer standards. And you're going to feel it. It's going to be feeling really nice up here across portions of the Great Lakes, across portions of the Northeast. So it's significant, cool down is going to be on the way, while much of the South continues to remain on the cooler side, while the ridge of high pressure will be slowly shifting and really starting to build over the Pacific Northwest. And they're going to be seeing the heat ridge starting to build up into that region. But heading into your Thursday time frame with the trough digging in, then that puts the low pressure, squeezes it further south. So it still has these coastal areas along southern portions of the Southeast into Florida again, with scattered heavier rain showers in the afternoon time frame. Texas is back into the picture with scattered rain back in the picture on Thursday, as that persistent kind of northwest flow continues to be inundating the same areas. And there's the cool shot of air, right? So you got the jet stream lifting well up into Canada. And then you got the ridge of high pressure up here into the Northwest Territories, up into the Pacific Northwest, further south with that, that troughing system coming in and finally meeting up with that subtropical jet. It puts the cooler anomalies to the south and the well above average anomalies, to the north. And there's the rain setup for you as you get into Friday. So it breaks down a little bit, but overall, you still got rain showers across portions of Florida, and it's going to be a kind of a daily event for them down there in that region. But here's the temperature anomalies as we head into Friday. This is June the 9th, folks. So that's going to be feeling really nice. Now, obviously, these areas are typically already warm for this time of year. So anytime you can see, a couple of degrees or even 5 to 10 degrees below average, that is definitely a welcome sight, as much of a good part of the country is actually kind of below average, with the only exception is parts of the Pacific Northwest. And it's really kind of compliments of these teleconnections with the NAO going negative. So, and this looks to remain negative for an extended period of time. So once that trough moves in, you're going to be on the cooler side, I think, for an extended period of time across the Great Lakes, across the Northeast. Compliments of that negative NAO, and the AO is also negative too. So, I mean, winter weather lovers tend to like this in winter. So in summer, So this is a good sign. So it kind of backs off summer a little bit and keeps the temperatures at bay. And anytime you can get a cooler shot and go heading into summer, it's definitely a welcome relief. But I think what's going to happen as we get towards, say, the middle of the month, right? So we're going to be slowly starting to see further south, at least, more ridging starting to build up down there in Mexico. And I think eventually that's going to start to ooze in into our southern states and start heating up that atmosphere as the more of the subtropical flow starts to being more elevated and lift further north. So I think you still got the dry slot across the Ohio Valley and the North and the Great Lakes, but it puts the heavier rain shots a little bit further north, now in placements back into California, back in Nevada, back into portions of Idaho, into portions of Utah. And if we extend the view heading into the kind of the longer range towards the middle of the month, we definitely see that, right? With the negative NAO, with the negative AO, puts the cooler anomalies across the Great Lakes and across the Northeast. And then you've got that cool shot with the subtropical jet lifting a little bit further north. So it puts the cooler anomalies across the California regions. But you can definitely see further south, right? That's the heat ridge that's starting to build down there in Mexico. So, and that, I think, over time, as this subtropical jet lifts further north, it's going to allow this ridge to fill in a little bit further north as well. So much of probably Texas by then will start to be looking at above average temperatures back into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, heading into Georgia, back into Florida. With that ridge starting to move in out of Mexico, we're probably going to be seeing that heat really starting to amplify over those southern regions by the middle of the month. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.